Well, who is this man who talks to a woman at the well? Because in ancient myth times he'd travelled a long way for his master to find a bride from his own people. And in the Jesus story, we find again, echoing this, the disciples durst not ask him why he talked with the woman. You see, the world always wants to blame you, to find you wrong and inferior, because in some sense that at least makes an even playing field with their corruption. And at best elevates them with their friends for their wily understanding as they try to flaunt an ego. Well, verse 6 of John 4, now Jacob's well was there. We're not talking about water. We're talking about life, a fountain of life rushing up unto life eternal. Jesus, therefore, being wearied, oh my goodness. You know, the people that should be able to hear can't hear. And so what does he do? He can't get, if you like, you know, the man with the feast, he can't get the people that were invited to come to the celebration, the wedding, the party, he's wearied in his journey. How long must I be with thee? He sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. Pause on that for a moment. We're now echoing forward into the crucifixion story. It's the 6th hour of the day. The reality, everything's foreign. The crucifixion is being in a world that doesn't recognize who you are and don't recognize who they themselves are. And here is a strange woman who relates to him as if he were just a man. And what line is he pulling? Goodness gracious. I'm here without the retinue protection of the other women because they don't accept me. I'm an outcast and at risk in a world, and it's by my wits alone that I survive. And what does she say to him? Where are we? Verse 7, there cometh a woman of Samaria. Oh my goodness, this is we're in the devil's den from a sort of traditional Judaic point of view. And Jesus says to her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away into the city to buy food. Meat, the King James says, because meat stands for food. And saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealing with the Samaritans. And Jesus presents us with the right record, doesn't he, in the story? Then, it's the gift of God. It's a gift, you see, it's not just the Jews. You'd have asked of him, you'd have said, give me to drink. You'd have taken the initiative, not me. And I would have given you living water. And she's not quite tuned in yet, and she's teasing. She says, oh yes, and what are you going to draw with? Is she playing dumb at this point? Or is she fascinated by this chap? Is she flirting? I think so. I hope so. If you were a woman and you had the opportunity to flirt with Jesus, I don't think you'd pass it off lightly. Well, let's see how we go. Art thou greater than our father Jacob? Now look, she's arguing on strong ground now from her point of view. She says, no, we go back. We may be Samaritans, but we go back to Jacob. You don't accept us, but... and so on. And you've come here to drink. Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? You see, she's maintaining that he has actually come to the right place, not the wrong place. And of course she doesn't realize really yet that he's very accepting that, well, every place is God's place, isn't it? And the gift is not just to Israel, it's to all. And so he says, whoever drinks of this water, from this well, will thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life. Give me this water, she says, that I thirst not. Neither come here to draw. In other words, put my life right, can you? It's all in chaos. It's... And then we get the discourse about go call thy husband. She says, well, I don't have a husband really. And Jesus says, thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. And that said thou truly. Sir, I perceive you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. You see, now this is specifically to clear up. Jesus is not something about Judaism. And he wishes to make that very clear to someone whom Judaism has utterly rejected, and the nation. Woman, believe me, the hour cometh, you shall neither in this mountain nor at Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship, you know not what. We know what we worship. The salvation is of the Jews. Think about that for a minute, shall we? This is contrary to the drift of why Jesus is here and all the rest of it. And he certainly wouldn't be saying that it's of the current Jewish attitude and deplorable state. So he means it is of this ancient story. And of course the ancient story wouldn't be referred to as Jews. How often does he refer to Israel, to Judean people as Jews? I think this is a bit of editing going on here by a not too enlightened editor, or a mistranslation at some point to not Jews but Abraham. I mean, Jews were just a particular branch later on. It's the root that counts. She's recognizing Father Abraham, remember? She just said that. And Jesus is saying there is something genuine about exactly that she has her trust in. And that's why he's there. That's why he's talking to her. You know, this is a set-up job by the author and by God. Whichever way you like to look at it. This despised lady is more acceptable than what Jesus has back home. The Father seeketh such to worship him, the true worshippers. Do you see? God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. We're not talking about Jews now. We're talking about the true worshippers, whoever they are. And the woman says, well, I know the Messiah's coming, which is called Christ, who will show us all things. Jesus says, I that speak unto thee am he. Well, we have a connection here between the woman and Jesus. How long does Jesus linger there? 3 days, of course. It's always 3. It's achieved in 3 days. You see, these people that she brings, the men, they're convinced just by meeting Jesus. They too have ears to hear. So we have those that are supposed to be able to hear and are so corrupt that they can't see it. All they see is a miracle worker. And the men come, the Samaritans. They can hear without being presented with a miracle. Wow. Says it all, doesn't it? This religion is not for the Jews. It's for all. It never was for the Jews. It was meant to be of the Jews, to come through them. Not the Jews either, but I mean the whole of Abraham's family. Not just one so-called surviving branch. And of course those that prided themselves on being Jews going back to Abraham were no more reliably Jews than the woman at the well. For they too had been deported and so on in their storied history, and in truth too, in actual history. And those that now occupied the land were hardly pure Jews, and greatly influenced by where they'd been in Babylon. I mean, all sorts of things have been introduced into the religion that weren't there before. The religion after Babylon was not the same as the religion that seemed to be before. And myth and historicity clouds it all anyway. In the end, it's who's myth and who's historicity. Because, of course, your salvation doesn't depend on your history. On the contrary, you die to the old self and are born of God. And here Jesus is in Samaria with those that have ears to hear. let me say in passing that the true descendants of Abraham are scattered. They're the diaspora. They're now Hellenized Jews and just Greeks now. I mean, they've lost, some of them, their Jewish trace completely. It's these people that have the truth. This is what the storyteller's telling you in a nice, classic Gnostic fashion. That the Gnostic religion, the mystery religion of ancient Egypt, is what true Abrahamic myth is about. You talk to Philo in Alexandria at the time of Jesus. He knows nothing of some tangible man called Jesus living, in Israel, which is not far away from Alexandria on the Nile. But he's understanding the whole of the Old Testament as a Gnostic. He's taking it. Of course it's a myth. What's the truth of this myth? What's it all mean? Because he's coming at it with the fuller enlightenment of the Hellenized Jew. The mystery religion speaks to him of what his own religion was, as he understands it, surely must have been. And without knowing anything of Jesus, he's reinterpreting what we think of as the Old Testament, Torah, and so on, as an early adaptation of the mystery cult. Not in his time, of 2,000 years ago, but of long before, back in, half a thousand years earlier, when the mystery cult, mystery religion was being applied to all the Mediterranean cultures and so on. It's not the first time that the mystery religion has come to that part of the Middle East. It's been going since Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, and so on. It's not the first time that the literalists have taken over by the time we get to Constantine. It's happened way, way back. Judaism was a literalist understanding of an early adaptation of the mystery religion to the people of that part of the world. Because literalism speaks to the worldling, and the worldling uses it, takes hold of it, ascends to power and control, and rules accordingly in a very non-spiritual way. It's always there. The truth is always hidden. It's not that, you have to slave like mad to keep the truth secret. It's that the literalist will always be blind to it until his heart longs to know, because of the consequence of literalism, the failure, the corruption, the appalling atrocities that we've seen in Christianity that can come from a literalist, dogmatic, blind, fundamentalist adherence. God has it for a reason, that you might be free to experience the misunderstanding that you have, the wrong values, and to learn accordingly, that you might utterly reject such and therefore be ready for life eternal in heaven. This is the world, the universe of good and evil, of uncertainty, and the opportunity to be free of the reality of God, and to find out that that freedom is not what you want. And the appalling things that go on in the world, the horrendous evil, achieves exactly that. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Dad. Look, why do you think Rome, Vatican and so on, has all these suspicious rumours about it of, what is the truth they're hiding? What were the statues originally? Are they in some sense Masonic ancient Egypt hidden? Well, of course. You know that the whole point about the mystery religion was that there was the literal outward appearance and the truth was hidden. It was kept secret. It was for the initiated, for the chosen. The elite should be doing this. It's not that this is a corruption. Now, I don't know to what extent, of course, the Catholic Church is doing this, or if, they're just, if you like, dead statues down there in the museum part of the place. But do you see? And when there's this argy-bargy going on about how many gospels should there be, and whoever it is comes up with, oh no, we should have 4 gospels like the 4 winds and so on. He's not daft. He's a secret mystic. He's making sure John's gospel is there in a form that will stay there as an apparent pseudo-literalist support to the other 3, but in fact as Gnostic as you could possibly imagine. It's the mystery religion in all its glory. And I'm not saying that with tongue-in-cheek. I'm saying that's exactly what John's Gospel is. And for the right reasons. It's keeping the truth from the profane, from the literalist, who is going to keep the Gospel in there because of its, look at it, it's got no parables in, it's not asking you to look deeper. Yes, how right you are. Which makes it as Gnostic as it could be. Because you'll only hear if you've got ears to hear, and see if you've got eyes to see. So people love Jesus. Didn't you notice he's not part of the establishment? he's on the beach. He's talking in the wilderness. Wow. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Dad.